players I love and hate for week 3. These first 2 weeks have been crazy. Jeffrey, say what's up to the people.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
Jeffrey helps me with my videos, animations, and whatnot. It's time to get it started. Jeffrey, fire up my quarterbacks.
Yes, sir.
Quarterbacks I love in week 3. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has not been impressive so far this year, at least from a fantasy aspect, but he has a matchup to die for. He goes up against the Washington Commanders this week at home. The Commanders have allowed the most points to the quarterback position. Joe Burrow is going to have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is getting healthy. He may possibly play in this game. Regardless, I think that Joe Burrow lights up the Washington Commanders. I've received a lot of questions about Joe Burrow recently, and I'm here to tell you this is where he bounces back. And this won't be the last time you hear about a Bengals on this list. Moving on. Next up, Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray is going to have another great game going up against the Detroit Lions. The Lions are middle of the pack against the quarterback, but more importantly, this is the highest over-under on the week. The over-under is at 51.5 points. Let's go! I want pieces of this offense. I think both the Lions and the Cardinals players have good games. Kyler's going to facilitate that. And man, oh man, now that he has Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler's about to be a problem. Quarterback I hate this week and sleepers. Anthony Richardson. I love Anthony Richardson as an athlete. I think that there's always a chance he has a moon ball and he runs for a bunch of yards. But going up against this Chicago's Bears defense makes me nervous. I don't think you have to sit Richardson, but I wouldn't expect the massive upside that you expect for him in the past. The Chicago Bears are one of the toughest teams in the league against the quarterback position. I'm tracking them as the 7th hardest matchup. You're probably not benching Richardson, but you should manage your expectations. If you play him, you might want to get some upside somewhere else. Quarterback sleeper this week, Kirk Cousins. Kirk did not look good at the beginning of that Eagles game, to be fair. But that final drive, it looked like he was starting to get a hang of it. And he goes up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Falcons see how this division is going. They're going to have to win a decent amount of games to win this division. Teams are looking better. Going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, if you want to win, you're going to have to score. And I think Kirk Cousins is going to do a solid job. If you're out there and you're desperate, I think good old Kirk Cousins might be able to help you out. And you know he's on the waiver wire. Ain't nobody holding Kirk Cousins. Jeffrey, move on to the wide receiver position.
Yes, sir.
Wide receivers I love this week. Jamar Chase. Yes, I know you were going to start Jamar Chase, but I'm actually confident this week that he's going to have a good game. He has not been good so far this season, and you would be surprised the amount of questions I have got on whether or not they should trade away Jamar Chase. Well, I'm here to tell you, I think that Jamar Chase is the buy low right now, and he's about to pop off this week. My man hasn't had 70 yards yet this year. 0 touchdowns? Oh yeah, that's definitely gonna change. I think that he rights the ship. Ooh, look at that backflip. This must be a bounce back week because I think that Chris Olave is bouncing back as well. I think he had a solid game last week, but I think he follows it up with another really good game. Going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the 2nd highest over-under of the week, so you know they're going to have to score. Saints are looking good, but I think they got to get their star involved. On the other side of that matchup, you got Devonta Smith. With A.J. Brown not playing, I definitely think Devonta Smith is a must-start, obviously, and he's going to pop off. Again, this is the 2nd highest over-under of the week. There will be points scored in this one. You want to get a piece of that. And with Brown out, he's the clear number 1. Brandon Ayuk has not had 50 yards in a game this year. He has not had a touchdown. He has not been fantasy relevant. But you know what really helps turn that around? Injuries. Deebo Samuel, banged up, out. Christian McCaffrey, out, on IR. George Kittle, injured, may not play, questionable. At this point, they're running out of options. Brandon Ayuk kind of has to get involved. Going up against a rival Rams team, I think that he should have a fine day. Wide receivers I hate in week 3. Oh, this hurts. Jalen Waddle. I love him as a player. I'm really just concerned about his quarterback play. Skylar Thompson is not, in my opinion, a good quarterback. And I'm not as concerned about Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. They're going to force feed him targets. I'm concerned that they're not going to force feed Waddle targets. If Tua was in, I'd love him this week. Most of you are like me. You can't sit Jalen Waddle this week. You don't really have much of a choice. But what you can do is make sure the roster around him has some upside, because I don't think we're getting the upside from Waddle. Not saying you got to bench him, but limit your expectations. Not going to lie. I hope I'm wrong on this one. Sit Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. has been very bad so far this year, and it's not due to targets. 8 targets week 1, 7 targets week 2. He just hasn't had more than 31 yards in a game and no touchdowns. This is what I was worried about. I was worried about Michael Pittman Jr. getting Anthony Richardson and Anthony Richardson not throwing him accurate passes in the short and intermediate field. Anthony Richardson's been crushing deep passes, but that's not Michael Pittman Jr. I'm just concerned. I think he has a low baseline, and he's going up against a Chicago defense that allows the 3rd fewest points to the wide receiver position. And I got to trust Anthony Richardson to get him the ball? Nah, I'm good. Anything is possible, but I'll pass. Wide receiver sleepers for week 3. Tank Dell. Woo! Tank Dell has disappointed some fantasy managers this year. I'm not going to lie. I expected it to not go as well. He's going to be up and down. There's a lot of mouths to feed. But I will say this. He went 1 for -3 last week. Him and CJ Stroud are actually friends. If your boy goes 1 for -3, you are going to feed him the next week. I think that Tank Dell bounces back this week, and I think a lot of people are going to have him on the bench and be very sad. I don't have him anywhere because he was too expensive for a wide receiver 3, and I know the matchup isn't great, but I feel like they're going to try to take out Nico and Stephon Diggs. And that running game. Tank Dell's going to catch a nice deep one. He should have caught one last week, but he dropped it. I don't even have videos for these next guys. I'm going to have to find it. With all the injuries to the Los Angeles Rams, Demarcus Robinson should be a start. The Rams are running out of options. Puka, out. Cup, out. They need somebody to throw it to. I think Demarcus Robinson is the most likely to catch some balls in this game. Another sleeper, Darnell Mooney. He had 8 targets last week. I know most of it came at the end of the game, but so did Drake London. So if you're going to say about him, say about Drake London too. They're going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. The team is going to need to pass the ball. I think Darnell Mooney could be a benefactor of that. And lastly, Juwan Jennings, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. I should probably mention that. A lot of people don't know who that is. With Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle out, they're going to need to throw the ball somewhere else. Jordan Mason can't get all the work, and neither can Brandon Ayuk, though I really like him this week. Juwan Jennings should have a fine day against the LA Rams. They don't scare you. Moving on to running backs, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir.
Running backs I love in week 3. Jordan Mason. This dude has been incredible. Back-to-back games with 17 or more fantasy points. Back-to-back games with a touchdown. Back-to-back games with 100 yards or more. This dude is getting work done. And he goes up against the LA Rams, who are depleted everywhere. He's going to run it down their throats. He's basically a must-start. Next up, Josh Jacobs. He rushed the ball 32 times last week for 151 yards. That is outrageous. Now he goes up against the Tennessee Titans. He was limited at practice, so I'm going to have to monitor that. But assuming he plays, oh, you got to start him. Plus, I hear Jordan Love has a shot to play this week. And if Jordan Love can play, that would be game-changing for him. He's still going to get a bunch of carries, but the offense will be better. I play him with or without Jordan Love. Can't replace those carries. 151 yards is wild. He has fumbled the ball in back-to-back games, though. That's kind of sketchy. Got to hold on to the ball, bro. And lastly, Tony Pollard. In that same game, going up against the Green Bay Packers, the Packers have allowed the most points to the running back position so far this year. And Tony Pollard is clearly the guy. So you're telling me that you got the guy going up against a Packers team that can't stop running backs. Yes, please. I'll take that. A running back I'm worried about, and some sleepers. Kyren Williams. He is a fantastic and talented running back, and I think that he should still have a solid game. I'm just really nervous about, 1, how much are they going to need to use him? 2, how injured is his offensive line? Is he even going to be able to run the ball? And 3, do they start getting Blake Corum more involved because they're going to lean on Kyren more? I'm not quite sure what this offense is going to look like, but going up against the 49ers is not fun. They are the toughest run defense in the league. And you're telling me your offensive line is beat up? Honestly, the 49ers are going to be all over Kyren Williams. He can still be solid, and you're not benching him, but I would limit your expectations. His upside is severely capped in this matchup, and with this terrible O-line. As for running back sleepers, Samir White goes from hate list to sleeper. Let's go! That's what happens when you go up against the Carolina Panthers. The coach came out and said they basically need to get him more involved and that the O-line wasn't doing a good enough job. Going up against the Panthers, I think they're going to have an opportunity to run the ball more. They'll probably have more red zone carries as well. I think Zamir can sneak into being relevant this week. Next up, Jerome Ford. I was concerned with him only getting 7 carries last week and Foreman getting 14. But this matchup is too good to pass on. The New York Giants are heading to Cleveland to play the Browns. Daniel Jones is going to have an absolutely awful game. Multiple turnovers, multiple sacks, fantastic field position for the Browns. I think Jerome Ford's going to have a good shot to get in the end zone. I'm firing him up. And lastly, we have Cam Akers. With Joe Mixon possibly not playing as well as Dameon Pierce, if both of those guys miss, I think it's going to be Cam Akers. You can probably find him off the waiver wire. So if you're desperate, and I say desperate because the matchup isn't good, the Vikings are pretty good against the running back position. But I do think that Cam Akers is the guy in an offense that I like. So if you're desperate, fire him up. A tight end I love and a sleeper. I completely missed on Brock Bowers this year. I can admit it. Tight end 3 so far. Hasn't finished outside the top 5. He's had 8 or more targets in back-to-back games. The dude is just involved. Now they go up against the Carolina Panthers, the 3rd easiest matchup for a tight end. I mean, he's a must start. That dude is crushing it. Wow. I was surprised when I looked into the numbers. He's really getting a lot of targets for a tight end. Now he's just got to get in the end zone. Sleeper tight end, Mike Gesicki. Tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. Goes up against the Commanders. I like this play a lot more if T. Higgins doesn't play. If T. Higgins does play, I think it's a little more risque. And of course I love Trey McBride, but honestly that's not really saying much. He's in the highest over-under of the week. Of course you're starting Trey McBride. I just want more pieces of this Cardinals-Lions game, honestly. It's been really down for the tight end position recently. So that's love-hates for week 3. Who did I get right? Who did I get wrong? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you have any start questions, hit me up. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell down below. Good luck this week. Peace.